Good morning. My name is Lalitesh Sinha, Assistant Professor, IPS Academy Institute of Engineering and Science. So today we have to discuss about water resource engineering, in which I have select one topic, which is hydrology. So this is my today's content of lecture. Start with water. So as we know, water is a marvelous substance which can be beautiful, powerful and destructive. So as we see in the picture, the one of our picture of Himalaya, and second one is a destructive, in which we have seen that there is a flood occur, and the another one is the picture of dam. So in the picture it is very clear that it is marvelous substance, but it is also beautiful, powerful, and create some disturbance or create some destructive damages of lives. Basically water is found in three states. One is liquid, one is solid, and another one is gas. As a water resource of water that are potentially useful. So as uses of water, we use water in agriculture, in industry, in household recreations or environmental activity, and the other major source of water is human requirement, which generally as we have seen that we require fresh water. So in our earth, 97% of water on earth is a salt water. So and only 3% of water is fresh water. So slightly over 2/3 of this is a frozen water which is available in earth, and 97% of water is a salty water. So most also we have says that most of the water water available in our body also, in animal body also. So graphically we have to summarize it into earth waters, in which we have clearly see that 97% of water is saline water and 3% of water is fresh water. So this 3% of fresh water is also classified into ice caps and glaciers, groundwater, and other is 0.9%. So only 3% of water is available in earth, which is fresh water, and this 3% of fresh water is subdivided also into groundwater, ice cap water and other, and this 0.9% of water is also subclassified into lakes, swamps and rivers. So it is a very important for global issues that the water is available is only 3%. So we clearly see in the forms of water and distributions only oceans, ice, snow, saline groundwater, fresh water, fresh lakes. These are the some percentage of water which is available in percentage. In clearly we have seen that 100% of water is available for 2800 years, and in which we have clearly see that oceans we have to only 96.5%, in terms in ice and snow only 1.76%, and saline water is only 0.93%, and the fresh water and fresh groundwater is only in 0.76%. So it is a globally concern, and we have to manage, and we have to discuss and aware the use of water. So these are the upstream uses, as we have discussed in previous slides, that water is useful in agriculture, thermoelectric, industry, mining, domestic and commercial. So these are all the off-stream uses of water. Now when we discuss about in-stream uses, so hydropower recreation is a one of our in-stream use, and this is our fall, this is our navigations, and this is our ecosystem. So these are the some uses of in-stream uses of our water. So today we are to discuss about what water resources engineering firstly, and then we go further for hydrology. So in water resource engineering, what we have to study? We have to study the study and management of equipment, facilities and techniques that are used to manage and preserve life's most plentiful resources, which is water. Now in addition to assessing how and the best way in which we use water, pertain water to its related activities like irrigations, waste disposal, canal development. Water resource engineers are also frequently involved in water management to ensure that it's safe to drink and human, plants and animal uses. So water resource engineer may be tasked with some awesome responsibilities of ensuring that the planning and management of available water is so important, and water supply are adequately leveraged and remain safe to use for long as possible. Now what is the role of water resource planner? So water resource, first the water resource planner is to create some water resource system, and this is bifurcated into some tasks. So water availability data is available, and the water is available for domestic water supply projects, irrigation water supply project, hydro generation projects, flood control projects, ecology restriction project, industrial water supply management, navigation projects, social, economic and demographical data, environmental data, subsurface geological characteristic, land surface characteristic, and water requirement data. So all these tasks we have to manage at one system, and this is as a water resource system planner. So the basic basic role of water resource engineer is to plan this system. Now in water resource engineering or management, we have to classify it into three parts. One is water system management, water access management, and environmental restorations. Other, it can be bifurcated into biological sciences, engineering, physical science, and social science. So our main role is the civil part, and in which we have to discuss hydrology. So what is hydrology? So hydrology is the science in which we deals the water distribution, occurrence, and movement of water. And further we have to discuss what is hydrological cycle. So hydrological cycle is what? The total water supply of earth is constant, is nothing vary. So the circulation is from atmosphere to earth, and earth to atmosphere is a hydrological cycle. So this is known as hydrological cycle. So hydrological cycle can be defined as a continuous process, or we can say that it is an exchange of water from atmosphere to earth or earth to atmosphere. And further it will be bifurcated into some components or basic components, which is clearly shown in this PPT. So first is precipitation, another one is runoff, third one is evaporation, then condensation, then transpiration, then evaporation, then infiltration, and then depression or interception. So this is the figure of our hydrological cycle, in which we have clearly see that the water is start from or the main source of water is rainfall. So rainfall is transfer from atmosphere to earth. So precipitation is start and then it goes to ground, and then it is further moved towards lake, and then it is further moved towards as a surface runoff, and then it goes or discharge into ocean. Further, if it will be see that if the water is go into ground, then it infiltrate into the ground, and deeply it percolate, and then at lastly it will go to the aquifer, from where we have to find some groundwater flow. So basically this type of terms, or we can say that this figure is clearly show the hydrological cycle. And further we have to discuss the figure in terms of flow chart. So clearly the flow chart is shows that the precipitation is in atmospheric system, and this precipitation is comes to the ground, which is in earth system, and this ground is having some phenomena of interception, or we can say it depression storage. Further it will move towards, it will go to infiltration, and then it goes to soil moisture storage. Further the infiltrate water will go into or percolate into groundwater storage, in which with the figure in which this flow chart we have clearly shows that the ground storage comes forward toward overland flow, and then it will comes to the channel, and then it discharge into ocean. From this flow chart, we have clearly see that the evapotranspiration is occur. So evapotranspiration is generally occur on ground. So ground having plants. So the ground having some plants. So the phenomena of evapotranspiration is occurs in grounds, or we can say that leaves leaves or grounds create some evapotranspiration, and in hydrological cycle the water bodies having some waters. So only during radiation, solar radiation, evaporation is occur. So these are the hydrological process in which we have to discuss one by one. So evapotranspiration is what? So evapotranspiration consists of E component. So E component is what? E component consists of surface evaporation, water surface evaporation. Water surface evaporation means what? The water from river, lake, ocean is considered in this water surface evaporation, and evaporation from plants, leaves, and atmospheric evaporation. So these four terms will consider in terms considered in one content, which is evaporation and transpiration, which is denoted by E. Now another one is what? P. So P is what? The fall of moisture from the atmosphere to the earth surface in any form. So basically P is what? P is nothing but is a rainfall. So rainfall is further divided into two parts. One is liquid precipitation and another one is frozen precipitation. So liquid precipitation is what? Rainfall is nothing but is a liquid precipitation, and frozen precipitation is in terms of snow, hail, sleet and freezing rain. So these are the component of precipitation. Further we have to discuss runoff, surface runoff and interflow runoff. Now what are the meteorological data we have to require if we study the hydrology, or we can say that the hydrology of a place depend upon climates, and climates are, depend on some factors. So like depend on some factor is what? From precipitation, humidity, temperature, radiation and wind velocity. So these are important in terms, if we have to discuss about climate, then we have to discuss about precipitation. It's made of occurrence, humidity, temperature, radiation and wind velocity. So if we discuss climate, then we have to also we have to discuss also wind velocity, radiation, temperature, humidity and precipitation. So these are one of the major meteorological data, which is climate. Now another one is topography and geology. Now we have to discuss about we discuss about precipitation. Now we have to discuss about types of precipitation. So generally 4 types of precipitations occur. First is cyclonic precipitation, which is occur due to lifting of air masses. So lifting of air masses is what? So lifting of air masses is nothing but lifting of air masses is what? Is converging into low pressure area of cyclone. Now this cyclonic precipitation is what? When two adjacent air masses, something like that, if you have two adjacent air masses which is generally have different characteristic of temperature and humidity. So this one is what? This is what is called front. Now when a flow of warm and moist air masses from south meets cold air masses of polar region, then the cold air begins heavier under the warm air masses, cool down at higher altitude and causing precipitation. So it is nothing but it is a what basically, if we have to see that in the previous slides there is an hydrological cycle in which we have see that the clouds basically in which phenomena clouds are created. So clouds is basically dependent on this type of an air masses. So this air masses is basically what it created, or it have some different characteristic of air and temperature. So in that in the frontal precipitation we have to see that these two air masses having different characteristic of temperature and they cool down at a higher altitude. So this type of frontal precipitation is occur, and this frontal precipitation is of two types. One is warm front and second one is cold front. So warm front is what? When warm air masses When warm air masses, this one is warm air masses and this one is cold air masses. So warm air masses is nothing but warm air masses is what? This one is warm and this one is cold. So this having different characteristic, they converge and goes into higher altitude. Okay, so the warm front is active ascent of warm air, in which warm air masses is over cold air masses. So when warm air masses is over cold air masses, then this one is warm front, and where cold air masses is in upper direction and warm is in lower direction, then it is called as cold front. So this one frontal precipitation either classified into non-frontal precipitation, in which air mass is stationary. So in which what this air mass is stationary, and the another one is moving. So this type of precipitation is what? Non-frontal precipitation. Okay. Now another one is a convective precipitation. Convective precipitation is what? It is generally caused by natural rising of warm lighter in colder denser surrounding. So the difference in temperature may result unequal heating and cooling. So this type of precipitation is known as convective precipitation. Is generally a spotty type of rainfall is occur, and its intensity may vary from light to cold burst. So this type of precipitation is second one, which is known as convective precipitation. Now third type of precipitation is what? Orographic precipitation, or we can say that orographic rainfall. So orographic rainfall is what? Now it is caused due to, in the figure we have clearly see that these are the clouds and the precipitation occurs, and these precipitations is occur, and they will be discharged into lower part of the hills, and from the also it is clear that the hydrological cycle is created. Now when the hydrological cycle is created, or we can say that then there is a lifting of an air masses from oceans, and then they will be goes or discharge over higher altitudes, and because of this hilly portion there is a topographical barrier. So as it reach higher elevation, it comes with colder air, and then it precipitation occurs. So this type of precipitation is occurs in Himalaya region. Now precipitation due to turbulence. So turbulence ascent is due to the air masses is forced up to rise to a greater friction of Earth's surface after it travel over the ocean, and the air masses rises up due to greater friction of Earth's surface after it travel over the oceans. So previously we have to clearly discuss about which type of precipitations are there. So there are 4 types of precipitation. First is cyclonic precipitation, in which we have to further subdivided into 2 parts. One is frontal precipitation and another one is non-frontal precipitation. Then we discuss about convective precipitation, which is also occurred due to unequal cooling or heating. So this type of precipitation is spotty, and its intensity may vary from lower intensity to a cloud burst. So third one is an orographic precipitation. Orographic precipitation is what? It is occurred due to topographical barriers. And the fourth one is precipitation due to turbulence. So we have to clearly discuss about the types of precipitation. Now we have to discuss about forms of precipitation. So forms of precipitation is what? So we have to clearly show in the slides that for precipitation is available in different forms. The first one is what? Drizzle. Drizzle is what? Drizzle is nothing but it is a type of a rainfall, but the form is different, which is having a water droplet size is 0.5 mm. So the size of water droplet is 0.5 mm, and its intensity is what? Less than 1 mm per hour. Another form of rainfall is another form of precipitation is water droplet. So the water droplet in rain is basically greater than 0.5 mm to 6.25 mm. Now another one is, third point is glaze. So it is also a subtype of drizzle, but it is in contact with cold objects, so it creates another form, and which is known as glaze. Now fourth one is sleet. Sleet is nothing but is a raindrop, but is in a frozen form. So it cooled to ice stage while falling through the air. Now fifth one is what? Snow. Snow is what? Water vapor directly changes to ice. And the sixth one is what? Snowflakes. There is a no number of ice crystals together from snowflakes. And the last one is hells, which is nothing but lumps of ice which is the size of greater than 5 mm dia formed by alternate freezing. Now we have to discuss about rainfall in India. So in India generally the rainfall, major rainfall season in India is from June to October. Now India is generally lies in a tropical belt, so north of equator, and has the following 4 distinct weather periods. So first one is a monsoon period, start from June and end to October. Now wind is advancing from south west direction, break up into 2 distinct branches, Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. So this one is what? This is the first monsoon. This is first classification is monsoon period. So start from June and end towards October, and start with southwest direction. And there, as we know that we have to India is basically located in between Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. So Bay of Bengal touches, so rainfall in India start with Bay of Bengal. So Bay of Bengal touches with the Kerala and move towards westward. So westwards includes West Bengal, Orissa, Bihar, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana and Himachal Pradesh. And Arabian Sea touches northeast state, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Sikkim, and move towards northward. So clearly we have mentioned that the rainfall in India is of monsoon period start from June and end towards October, and further the start, or we can say that organizing, or we can say that the start advancing, we can say that the rainfall start from Bay of Bengal. So if Bay of Bengal create rainfall, then it move towards Kerala, West Bengal, Orissa, Bihar, UP, MP, Haryana. On the other hand, if we say if the rainfall start from Arabian Sea, or then it touch towards northeast state, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Sikkim, and move towards northwards. So further we have to discuss on post monsoon periods, which is start from October and end toward November. So the southwest monsoon retreats and the northeast active, causing rain, and south is state part of peninsula due to wind blowing Bay of Bengal touches southern east part. So winter rainfall period is North India include Jammu and Kashmir, and the another one is. So now we have to discuss in India map. So this map is basically sourced from Indian Meteorological Department, and the figure is clearly shows that the withdrawal of southwest monsoon 2023. So these blue lines clearly says that the active dates of withdrawal, or we can say that the active monsoon, and this one is the normal dates of monsoon. So India, we have clearly sees that the India is located in between Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. So north, this one is north, this one is east, and this is the south, and this is the west part of our India. From clearly we have seen sees that if the monsoon originated from Arabian Sea, then it moved towards in this direction. Start with Kerala, then it moves towards in this direction. Or if monsoon start in from Bay of Bengal, then it moves towards in that direction. Okay. So this figure is clearly shows that monsoon start from Arabian Sea, then it will move towards this direction, or we can say move towards in this direction. Now we have to previously discuss types of precipitation, forms of precipitation and rainfall in India which is classified into 4 parts, and first is monsoon period, second one is pre-monsoon period, then fourth one is post-monsoon period, and another one is winter monsoon period. So after discussed, we have to our intention is to measure the rainfall. So measurement of rainfall is done with the help of rain gauge. So, and rain gauge is classified, or we can say that rain gauge we have to classify it into 2 parts. One is automatic and another one is non-automatic. So automatic rain gauge is what we have to discuss further. But firstly we discussed about non-automatic rain gauge, which is generally preferred by Government of India at all rain gauge stations. So this one is a Siemens rain gauge. From the figure it is clear that it is having some dimension. So during rainfall, what happened when the rainfall occurred, then we have to having some arrangements of Siemens rain gauge. So water goes in receiver, and then it will comes to the neck of bottle, and then it will be go to the bottle having some capacities. So at that time of precipitation, when precipitation occurs, then the bottle will be then the rainfall will receive, or we can say rainfall will be collect into this jar having some capacities. And these are some arrangements of Siemens rain gauge, in which we have clearly shows that the 60 by 60 by 60 centimeter of pedestal first we have to create, and then we install Siemens rain gauge on that pedestal having size 60 centimeter by 60 centimeter by 60 centimeter. Now the Siemens rain gauge having an upper diameter is 127 mm and the lower diameter is 210 mm. These are the some dimension of, or we can say that the height of this rain gauge, and these are the some freeboards we have to, or we can say that the upper dimension. After that we have to collect the sample, and the readings are in non-automatic type. So this type of gauge is non-automatic rain gauge. Further, we have also classified automatic rain gauge into 2 types, which one first is weighing bucket type rain gauge, and another one is Stevens tipping bucket type rain gauge. So from this rain gauge, water will be go on receiver first, then all the water will collect, and then it will be transferred to funnel. Now that transfer water will be go to funnel, and then it will be goes to the bucket. Then timely we can say that if the water is fill instantly, and it will be go gradually up, and then this filling water will weighed by some weighing mechanism, by spring mechanism, in which we have clearly see that there is a graph paper is plot, and which have some readings. So this graph paper will clearly show the reading, or we can say that the quantity which is available in the bucket will be available also in terms of reading on graph paper. So this type of weighing mechanism is known as a weighing bucket type rain gauge. Another one is Stevens tipping bucket type of rain gauge, in which the rain water will be received by receiver, and then it will be collect and transfer into funnel. Now this mechanism and this mechanism is different. In this weighing mechanism is by spring balance, and in this the recording rain gauge is having a tipping bucket arrangement, or we can say that is having some pivot arrangement, in which have a 2 compartment, 1 and 2. So water will be goes in first compartment, and then the water will goes and fill the compartment number 1, and then it will be shift in left direction. It will shift in left direction, and the second one is come in contact. So this is a pivot arrangement. So when water goes in first component, they fill the whole part, and then it will be tilt. So this type of rain gauge is Stevens tipping bucket type rain gauge. Now fourth one is a float type automatic rain gauge. So this is the fourth type of automatic siphons automatic rain gauge, in which what we have to collect rainfall. It will be go towards funnel. Then we having some casing arrangement in which we have pane mark arrangement with some float adjustment, in which we will clearly show that when the water will be goes into this compartment, the compartment will filled with water. Then this water will be goes into downward direction. Then the water will fill and moved in upward direction, and the float will be moved in upward direction. So once the water in this container is full, then the float will goes up, and this having an adjusting screw. So adjusting screw will release, and the water the released water will be goes in discharge tube. So this type of rain gauge is fourth one, which is known as float type, or we can say that a siphon automatic rain gauge. Now another point of concern is what we have available four types of rain gauge. Now we have to discuss about selection, how we select the rain gauge stations. So first we have to installed only at an open place, not install anywhere. The distance between rain gauge and the nearest object should be at least twice the height of object, or in no case 30 meter nearer to the obstruction. The rain gauge should never be situated on the side, or we can say at the top of the hill. And in the hills, find the level of space is difficult. So in hills, if we have to find some place where wind does not cause an eddies, so we have to select also a site on hills, but we have to select at that place where eddies are not formed. Also we have to install we have to select rain gauge station at the place where the rain gauge is installed. Then there is create some fence to protect the gauge from cattle animals, or we can say from cattle. Now previously we discussed the types of precipitation, forms of precipitation, rainfall in India, and then automatic rain gauge, non-automatic rain gauge. Now we have to discuss about rain gauge network. So rain gauge network is what? So basically if we have to create, or we can say some network, then the network will help to measure the rainfall easily. So firstly we have to discuss what is rain gauge density. So rain gauge density is nothing but is a total area of catchment upon total number of gauge in the catchment. Now it is absolutely essential to design a proper network. So rain gauge in a given catchment to collect the necessary precipitation data. Now to ensure the accurate assessment of catchment rainfall, so we have some recommendation. We have to also foreign recommendations also, but in current PPT we have to discuss only IS code recommendation. So these are some IS code recommendation in which we have to discuss the network density with respect to area. So 1 gauge per 520 km square area is a plain area. So in plain area we have to install 1 gauge. In region where we have an average elevation of 1000 meter above mean sea level, then we have to install 1 gauge. Now in hilly region we have to install 1 gauge per 130 km square, and in generally we have to take some 10% of gauges are of recording type. This is the IS code recommendations. So now we have to solve some numericals. So we have to 7 rain gauge stations. I think there is some misprint is there is a 5 rain gauge stations in a year. The annual rainfall recorded by the gauges are as follow. So these A, B, C, D, E having some rainfall reading in centimeter: 78.8, 90.2, 98.6, 102.4 and 70.4. Now we have to calculate the minimum number of additional rain gauge station to be established. So what we are do? So firstly we will determine the number of rain gauge. So some formulas are available, number of rain gauge stations. So firstly we will clearly discuss or determine the mean. So first we determine the mean with the help of this formula, which is nothing but is an arithmetic expression. So arithmetic expression is what? So first we have to summarize the rainfall data of each rain gauge station 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we can say that A, B, C, D, E in centimeter, and divide by number of rain gauges. So clearly we determine 88.08 centimeter arithmetic mean of a given rain gauge stations having readings of rainfall in centimeter. So the readings average mean or arithmetic mean is 88.08 centimeter. Now next step is what? We have to determine, or we can say that determine the standard deviation of a given rainfall. So with the help of this arithmetic mean, or we have to minus each reading of A, B, C, D, E stations from, for example, 78.08 minus 88.08 arithmetic mean, then 90.2 which is a rainfall of B station, minus with arithmetic mean and then square, plus third reading 98.6 minus 88.08 plus 102.4 minus 88.08, another one is 70.4 minus 88.08, and then it will be divided into 5 minus 1. 5 is what? 5 is nothing but is a number of rain gauge station minus 1. So these we have to calculate the standard deviations. Another one is what? We have to calculate coefficient of variation, which is nothing but is a standard deviation upon arithmetic mean multiplied by 100. Then we have to calculate what? Coefficient of variation. Now our the basic requirement is what? We have to calculate n, and this n is calculate with the help of coefficient of variation and p. So p is nothing but is what? P is a error which is given in question, which is 6%. So this 6% is we have to put 6 and then 15.22 square. So we have to get 7. So number of additional rain gauge is 7 minus 5, which is 2. So this is our solution for the numerical. Now we have to discuss about the estimation of missing rainfall data. So sometime it may be possible to measure the rainfall at a particular location due to absence of observer. So these are these three methods by which we have to calculate the missing rainfall data. So Px is what? Px is nothing but is a arithmetic mean method, in which what? Pi is a change with respect to station. For example, I is a value with 1 to n. So P1, P2, P3 up to Pn, and this is known as arithmetic mean method. Now second one is what? Normal ratio method. Normal ratio method is nothing but it is a different from arithmetic mean method. It is having some ratio. So from this and this we have to clear there is some difference. So this is what? This is some having ratio. So this normal ratio is different. So we have to common, we have take some common P1 upon N1, then P2 upon N2, P1 upon N1, and this one is known as normal ratio method. Now another one is what? Another one is a inverse distance method. So inverse distance method is nothing but it is a Wi is equals to 1 upon di. So di is nothing but is a xi square plus yi square. So we have to clearly says that we have some data. We have some rainfall data. We can see that if we have stations and having some rainfall. So for example, A, B, C, D, E, F. We have some reading, for example 72.6, 32.4, 82.3, 63.4, but we have no reading of E stations. Then what we have to do? We have to use any one method to calculate this missing rainfall data. Now this one is one of the numerical. From we have to calculate A, B, C, D in a basin having some readings 80.97, 65.59, 76.28, 92.0 centimeter respectively in the year 2020. So the D station was inoperative. The D station was inoperative. So basically is what we having in a 4 station. One A, second one is B, third one is C, and another one is D. We have station D with missing data. So what we are doing? We are doing as a normal ratio method. We are to use normal ratio method. Normal ratio method. So what we have to do? We have to do just use a formula which is nothing but which is a PD is equals to precipitation of missing data. For example, this data we have to know with the help of, but having annual precipitation is missing. So 91 as we have clearly see that A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D having a basic annual rainfall. So annual rainfall we have no. Annual rainfall is what? This one is the annual rainfall 80.97 and 65.59, 76.28 and another one is 92.01. And A, B, C, D are recorded. This one is recorded. Recorded is what? 91.11, 72.23, 79.89. So we have to determine this one. So with the help of this formula, we have to determine this, which is 99.48 centimeter. Now after the estimation of missing rainfall data, we have to calculate, or we can say that to estimate the reliable mean annual rainfall. So if we have to comment on or we have to determine or estimate the reliable mean annual rainfall, then we have necessary required 35 years of data. Mean annual rainfall is determined with the help of 35 years of data, and this mean annual rainfall data is helpful to design, or we can say that to design any, or we can say that any hydraulic structures. If we have to design, we have to require mean annual rainfall. So mean annual rainfall is nothing but it is depend on 35 years data, including past or current data of rainfall. So estimation of average aerial precipitation is also important. So now we have to determine the estimation of rainfall with the help of aerial precipitation. So aerial precipitation is what? In order to compute the average rainfall, we have to calculate the rainfall with the help of catchment, or we can say that the rainfall is basically form and then transfer from earth system, from atmosphere system to earth system. Then in earth system we have to having some different catchments. So these different catchments having some different area, different topography. So this topography can be basically depend on basically depend on basin. So in India we have classified basin into different types. For example, Narmada basin, Ganga basin, another both different types of basins are available. So in aerial precipitation we have to calculate P average. We have to calculate P average with the help of different methods are available: arithmetic mean method, polygon methods and isoidal methods. So these are some methods we have to discuss in further slides. So first one is arithmetical mean method. Arithmetical mean method is what? When the rainfall measured at a various stations in the catchment having little variations, the average precipitation over the catchment area is arithmetic mean of a station's value. So this arithmetic mean of station's value is nothing but we have to calculate with the help of P average. So P average is nothing but P1, P2, P3, sum of all stations having rainfall readings divided by number of stations. So we have to determine P average with the help of arithmetic mean method. Now another one is what? Thiessen-Polygon method. This is one of the important methods. So in this method, the rainfall recorded at each station is given weightage on the basis of the area enclosest to the stations. So from the figure, it is clearly see that we having some area, or we can say that we having some catchment area having A, B, C, D, 4 rain gauge stations are there. Now if we have to apply Thiessen-Polygon method in these rain gauge stations, now first we have to consider a catchment area containing 4 rain gauges A, B, C, D. Now the area are drawn to scale and marking the position of rain gauges, for example A, B, C and D. Now these rain gauge stations are joined by straight line. Simply in the PPT we have seen that there is some lines, dash lines joined with A, B, B, C, C, D. Now create a perpendicular bisector. For example, we have to take A and D, then create a perpendicular bisector. A and B, create a perpendicular bisector. Create C and D perpendicular bisector, and another one is this. So with the help of this perpendicular bisector, we have to having some different area of A, different area of B, different area of C, different area of D. So Thiessen network is thus constructed, and the polygon formed by the perpendicular bisector around the station enclose an area which is closer to that station at any other station. So with the help of, for example, A having P1 rainfall A1 area, P2 rainfall A2 area, P3 rainfall A3 area, and this one is P4 area, P4 rainfall and A4 area. So consider in numerator and then divided by individual area. So we have to calculate P average. Now another method to calculate the estimation of aerial rainfall. So the third method is iso-idle method. So the basic assumption in the previous method is that a rain gauge station base represent the area which is close to it. However, this may not be always be valid. So we comes to the iso-idle method. So, or we can say that it is a demerit of previous method. So we have to consider iso-idle method. So however, this method may not always be valid, especially when the rainfall is controlled by topography. So this is the most accurate and elaborate method. So this is the most accurate method in which we have to discuss. Now from the rainfall values recorded at rain gauge station, prepare the iso-idle map. Now what we have to do? We have to create a iso-idle map. So this is the iso-idle map in which we have to clearly see the lines of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. These are the isoids, and our interest is to what? To determine the rainfall with the help of these isoids. So 10 and 11 is what? Is nothing but this area shows 10 mm rainfall. This is or we can say that this area shows a 10 isoids or 10 isoids lines. These are 11 isoids lines. These are 12. These are 13, 14. These are all the basically shows the isoids of a given rainfall. So firstly, what we are do prepare the isoidal map. This is what, this is a isoidal map, and these are the rainfalls. So first we have to prepare isoidal map, then measure the area with the help of, for example, we have to 10 isoids, 10 isoidal line, 11 isoidal line. Then firstly we have to determine, we have to measure this area with the help of planimeter, with the help of planimeter. Okay, so similarly for 11 and 12 we have to calculate this area. Similarly for 12 to 13 we have to calculate this area, 13 to 14 we have to calculate this area, and then this area. So similar in previous methods we have to calculate different area. Similarly in this method we also calculate different area. So this one is what? This one is nothing but is a P1A1. This one is what? P2A2. This one is what? P3A3. This one is what? P4A4. And this one is what? P5A5. And this one is P6A6. Okay. Now sorry, this one is for, we have to calculate in previous, if we have to calculate with the help of previous method, then we have to take P1A1, but in this method we have to take this precipitation also, this precipitation also. So in this formula we have to take this P1 plus P2 upon 2A1, and then plus 1, then plus P2 plus P3, and then go towards up to P6. So basically we have to calculate what? We have to calculate individually precipitation area for this, for this, for this, for this, for this, and this, and then we have to calculate P average with the help of this formula, and this method is known as isoidal method. So this is one of the numerical of isoidal method. The isoids due to storm in a catchment were drawn, and the area of catchment bounded by isoids were tabulated as below. Estimate the mean precipitation due to storm. So in the given question, these are the isoids stationed to 12, 12 to 10, 10 to 8, 8 to 6, 6 to 4. These are the isoidal map, and these are the some areas. So what we have to calculate? We have to calculate first the area consisting of station surrounded by a closed isoid, precipitation value by 12 cm is taken, and for other area the mean two bounding isoids are taken. So clearly we have seen that these values are given. This average value of P is determined with the help of this figure. With the help of this figure, these two lines, we have to calculate the average value of P. 12, 11, 9, 8 plus 6, for example, 8 plus 8 is nothing but 18, 18 divided by 2, 9, 12 plus 10, 22 divided by 2, 11, 12. So it is not taken an average because the precipitation value start with 12 centimeter. Afterwards we have to take the average value. So initially we have to take 12, and then after we have to take average. So 12 plus 10, 11, 12 plus 10 divided by 2, 11, 10 plus 8 divided by 2, 9, 8 plus 6 divided by 2, 7, 6 plus 4 divided by 10 divided by 2, it's 5. So in this column we have to determine the average value of P. Area is given, then we have to just multiply column number fraction of total area, column number 3 divided by 450. 450 is nothing but is the total area. 450 is nothing but is the total area. So we have to calculate, we have to take this and divide with this. So 30 divided by 45 is 0.006. Now another one is what? 140 divided by 450 is 0.311. Another one is what? 80 divided by 450 this, 180 divided by 450 this, and then last is 20 divided by 450 is 0.04. And after the fraction of total area is summed up, then we get the value of 1. Now further we have to multiply the column number 2 value with column number 4 value, and we get the P average, which is nothing but a precipitation, which is 8.84 centimeter. Now after we discuss, before we have to see that we have to discuss about estimation of rainfall, missing rainfall data, average precipitation, or we can say mean annual precipitation. Now our next topic is what? Precipitation of rainfall data. So in precipitation we have used 3 methods of precipitation of rainfall data. First is heterograph method. Heterograph method is nothing but it is a plot of intensity against the time interval. It can be prepared from either mass curve of rainfall or directly from rain gauge. So the rain gauge stations having rainfall intensity observed in centimeter per hour with respect to time. So in this method we have to calculate, or we can say that we have to observe the timely rainfall in terms of bar. So with related to heterograph we have to solve one numerical. So the ordinates in mm of rainfall mass curve are given with having some duration of 6.30 hours, 6.30 hours, recorded by self recording at a 15 minutes interval. So these are the reading: 0, 12.4, 12.1. Then construct the heterograph of this storm for a uniform interval of 15 minutes. Now what we have to do? We have to do firstly, we have to clearly set the value, or we can say we have to clearly write the value of according to write the value with respect to time. So precipitation start with 6:30 and end at 9:30. So at 6:30 the cumulative rainfall is mm is 0. Then at 6:45 it is 12.4, and then it move forward, it will go downward. Then we have clearly see that at 9:30 the precipitation value of cumulative rainfall is increased up to 146 mm. Now firstly our approach is what? We have to calculate, we have to just minus, for example 0 to 12.4, then minus 12.4 minus 0 is 12.4, 22.1 minus 12.4 we get 9.7. So we have to just minus the value, we have to subtract and get the value. For example 22.1 minus 12.4 we get the value of 9.7, 35.1 minus 12.1 we get the value of 13. So with the help of these two data we have clearly determined the successive 15 minutes interval in mm. Now we have to calculate the rainfall intensity. So rainfall intensity is 12.4, multiply by 4 we get 49.6. So in 1 hour we have 15 minutes of 4 quadrants, 15 minutes of 4 interval. So each interval having 15 minutes, so in 1 hour we have to multiply it by 4, So in 12.4 multiply by 4 we get 14.96, 9.7 multiply by 4 we get 38.8, and move onwards we have to calculate the rainfall intensity in mm per hour. So we have a rainfall intensity in mm, and each intensity having a duration of 15 minutes. So particularly in hour it is 49.6. So with the help of this time, or we can say with the help of this calculation, we have created some bars. So first bar is at 6:30 to 6:45, the value is 49.6. So the value is, first bar value is 49.6. Similarly, the peak is achieved by this one, 8 to 8:15 is 109.2. So from the given numerical, we have to clearly identify each and every duration rainfall intensity in mm per hour. Now this is one of the method for a presentation of rainfall, which is mass curve of rainfall. So from the figure we have, from the graph we have clearly see that there is some time in x-axis and cumulative rainfall in y-axis. So with this type of mass curve of rainfall is generally occurred in rain gauges. So from A to B, it is clearly shows that there is some storms are happen, which is of 4 centimeter. This one is a stationary part where no rainfall. This part is dead part where no rainfall. This part is what where rainfall is measured. Again we have see that from C to D the rainfall happens, and then at dead portion there is a no rainfall. From again we have to see from E to F, this is a third storm, and this one is C to D is a second storm. So first storm happening at 4 centimeter, second storm happening 3.6, and third storm of 3.6. So this type of mass curve rainfall is basically we get from rain gauge. Okay. Then this is the last method, which is known as a point rainfall method. So rainfall data station is known as point rainfall. This data is present daily, weekly, monthly, seasonally or annual values, and a plot of magnitude versus chronological time in the form of bar diagram. And afterwards we have to first we have get the data, we have calculate the data, we have to elaborate, or we can say the missed data can be calculated by ourselves, and then we have to present, and then at last we have to use the presentable data and interpret this rainfall data for a further calculation. So in interpretation, basically we have to calculate we have to calculate some headings. So for example, intensity. So in this we have to calculate first I, which is nothing but is a rainfall depth upon duration. So P is what? Rainfall data, and T is what? Duration. Now rainfall depth is measured or subclassified into 3 terms. First is the rainfall intensity is of 2.5 mm per hour. Another one is of moderate intensity rainfall having 2.5 to 7.5 mm per hour. Third one is a heavy intensity of rainfall having intensity greater than of 7.5 mm per hour. Another interpreted figure for interpretation for frequency. So for interpretation we have to first intensity, and then we have to calculate frequency. So frequency is basically nothing but it is depend on the probability, and the probability is nothing but the probability of occurrence of an event expressed as a percentage is known as a frequency. So this one is a T, recurrence interval. We have to calculate recurrence interval T with respect to probability. So probability of occurrence is what? Of any one event. For example, if we toss one coin, the probability is for head, one probability for head and one probability for tail. So the probability is what? 1/2 is basically. So in the rainfall calculation, we have to also also determine the probability, and the probability, with the help of probability we have to determine the frequency. So frequency is nothing but is equals to 100 times of probability of occurrence, and the probability of occurrence, okay, so probability of occurrence is nothing but is a 1 upon t. T is nothing but is a t is what? T is a return period. So 1 by t into 100. So with the help of this formula we have to calculate frequency. Now third one is what? It is a intensity duration analysis. So intensity duration analysis, generally been observed that a greater the intensity of, so with the help of this formula we have to clearly shows that the shorter is the length of time it continue, the duration of storm increases, the maximum intensity of storm is decreases. Now fourth one is what? Fourth one is this: the storm of any given duration will have larger intensity of, in previous method the return period is calculatable, but in this the return period is large. So this relation is used for this relation is generally used to determine the intensity, duration and frequency analysis. So from the figure it is clearly that in x-axis there is a duration, in the y-axis there is a average intensity. So this t is used for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. So with the help of this formula, having different t return period, we are having some different intensity. So with the help of this formula we have to calculate the, or we can say that with the help of this figure or graph we have to relate the intensity, duration and frequency. Now this is another depth area relationship. The aerial distribution characteristic of a storm of given duration is reflected in the depth area relationship. So in previously slide we are having a different formula, and for depth area relationship we have a different formula where Pn stands for highest amount of rainfall, A stands for area, P bar is the average depth and K and N are constant. So with the help of this graph we have to clearly determine the maximum depth P and P bar, and then point depth at edge of the area. So average rainfall from the figure we have clearly see that where is the average rainfall P bar. Is P bar average rainfall decreases from the maximum value as the area consider. So these are the depth area relationship. The another one is the depth area duration. So in this the area relate with depth from 3 days storm, 2 days storm and 1 day storm. Now last slide is the double mass curve of rainfall. So basically in which we have to clearly see that we are having some data. With the help of this formula we have to correct the given data. For example, the data start from this point and it will be deflected from B point, or we can say that deflected from 1978. So with the help of some correction, or we can say with the help of this formula Px multiplied by A by B. So Px is nothing but is a recorded and Pxc is what? Corrected. So we have not used this data, we have to use this corrected data with the help of this correction A by B, which is nothing but 27.5 upon 39. So this method is nothing but is called as double mass curve technique of rainfall. So thank you.